And the question for anyone who here is thoughts on curation adding to quality of life. Good question.
Bert, you wanted to start.
Yes, Bert gets to start.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and you mentioned the bookmarking as kind of an elementary form of curation. I think curation is about really appreciating the finer things. And again, I go back to this kind of museum examples. That seems to be the stereotypical thing, and these people actually call themselves curators, right? So why do you go to a museum to see this exhibition? It's because you want to learn something new. You want to find out something different that you might not have known about. You want to appreciate some kind of fine work. I think in that sense, like that's, you know, where this can add to your quality of life, I suppose, that you're being informed about your world, you're learning something you might not have known about, and you're being led on this journey that's enjoyable, that's something interesting and new to you. So I think that's really kind of the key part of curation too, that it's more than bookmarking. It's not just a bunch of stuff to look at, but really kind of a narrative and a story to it.
Hey, and it's fun, so it adds to quality of life. You should do it.
I guess I have like a real example. Do you want to say your story?
My story?
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm Pierre.
Yeah. Story time.
Which part of the story do you want me to say?
Coming from France, I didn't know anybody, the whole just new startups.
Yeah.
This is audience participation right here, by the way.
Yeah. But actually...
Stand up for
Yeah.
Sir, we're going to put you on the spot. Everyone give him a round of applause.
So yeah, I came to France as an intern to do a one-year internship in a startup, because I actually have already used the Startup Digest from San Francisco. I've used it for a year since I've arrived only 2 months ago. And yeah, so it helped me to go to events, meet people, and I'm trying to bring back a little bit of the Silicon Valley to the students in France. So actually, that's why I'm recording the panel, and to enable people to see how it is, to see how great the Silicon Valley is, not necessarily to replicate that, but also to be aware of what's good and to match it with what they have in their place. So France work.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, that was literally like from start. I've never met him before. Like, yeah, we met at a party, like randomly, and we get these stories all the time. And people, they're in somewhere really far away. I've never met before, maybe Vancouver, Paris, or South Africa, and you know they come here and start Digest is one of the first things they subscribe for. And it's kind of like if you're an entrepreneur, it is your life. So.
All right, we got a lot more questions from here. We're going to start with right there. Yep.
Yeah, hi.
And your name, Phil.
Bert or Guillaume, what are some real simple lessons you've learned that have shown you that help people contribute content to your site?
I'm sorry,
What
the
are some
simple
real
lessons?
you've learned in terms of like UI, etc., that really improves like the number of people that contribute content to your site, like that create their own store files?
The question is how to, like UI or UX or whatever else you may do to get users to contribute more, to add more content, to get them to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's one thing that we had in the platform, which was we weren't sure it was going to be either a gimmick or something really important. It turned out to be very important, which is what we call the suggestion feature, which means that if you curate a topic on, I curate one on free ride skiing, and there's a suggest button which appears on the page, and you can input me a link to something that you feel is relevant. And weren't sure it was a gimmick or something important, and it turns out that those human suggestions, made from other people, which really took the time to actually look at what you wanted your topic to be about, what was your editorial line, your style, and everything. That's really awesome. That's the engagement on those is really great, and that turned into adding a lot more social features and evolving from being just a curation tool to trying to build a community of curators around the platform. So that was a big lesson.
Yeah, I think going back to this idea of feedback, I mean, one thing which, we have is that when you quote people's tweets on Twitter, you can actually then, in one click, notify them all and tell them they're part of this story in Storify. And, at first, I was kind of debating with my co-founder Xavier if we should build this, so I prototyped it. I just manually did it for a story on our early beta and saw that, wow, if you tell people they're quoted in a story, they're going to retweet that to their followers. They're going to respond to you and tell you thanks. That's going to spread much more broadly and kind of go viral in a way that it wouldn't if you just kind of broadcast and don't start a conversation. So we've seen that feature is really kind of really successful, gets far more clicks on those links that are shared in that way than just a regular link that's shared.
All right.
My name's Heidi Rochelle. My question is, I'm going to bring in some daily topics, given what's been going on with the Murdoch crowd. What about curation when there's a specific agenda behind it and a point of view that is being proposed widely? How will that affect, I have to figure out how to say this, how will that affect the broad news media if there are numerous competing agendas with people curating information? How will we find things that are not biased?
I think probably everything is actually biased in some way.
I was gonna
it's
say that.
impossible to,
It doesn't exist.
But you're gonna, keep going back to the sources that you think are authentic, that you trust what they have to say. I mean, I think that's really all you can do, and it's up to that person to prove themselves, and or totally discredit themselves if they've taken certain actions. So
Maybe I'll be provocative, but I think curation has to be subjective. Otherwise it's boring, and you wouldn't read a media that wouldn't have an editorial line of some style, so it has to be suggested. It's expression, that's what we started with, and yes, it's biased.
I'm going to add just quickly to that one. I think curation is not just about what's included, but it's also what's excluded. You're excluding sources that you think may be more biased or that don't provide the accuracy you're looking for. That's the kind of thing curation provides. Right over here.
I have a question and a comment for Bert has a great experience of working.
You got your name, by the way?
Andre.
Thank you.
I also represent the same time as Bert. So. He has a great experience of working with Associated Press agencies. How will the role of the editor be similar to the curator when it comes to the content? And the second part of the question, I strongly believe that the only person that can be a curator has to be an expert in this. Here is your metaphor of the exhibit, because the exhibits are selected by experts. And here is Chris and Brandon, who are both curating Startup Digest as two experts. So I believe that the content, when it is curated, has to be curated by the people who know what they do. And yes, it's very subjective, but it's not engaged. It's not the marketing material that is presented.
So why don't we start with part one of that, which is about editors and curators. I mean, the relationship between the two, I guess.
yeah, I mean, actually, this word curation, journalists kind of don't like the word, and they're like, why don't you just say editor? Isn't it really the same thing? I mean, I think there is something to that. I think this is, I worked, as you mentioned, I worked for many years as a journalist. What do you do as a journalist? You're taking a lot of information, you're taking what people say, you're taking reports, you're taking statements, you do your own interviews, and you pick the best of all that, and you write a story, and you give the context to it, and you say why it's important, and what happened in the past, and why this is different. I really think that's the same thing that curation is all about. The only difference now is the source. So I think the editors do have to realize that there is this wealth of content out there. The source is not just the journalist on their staff at all, because they can't possibly have people everywhere in the world covering every possible issue. The source is social media. The source is everybody out there, and this is much more a collaborative effort than it ever was before.
Maybe I'll take the second part of the question, which was about the expertise. I think it's also a question of, isn't everyone an expert at something? We all have passions, and it's a matter of how you define that. But I think we're coming from a world where the gatekeepers were journalists and a happy few of people who were in the know and who were the only one who had the microphone or the printing press, and we're now in a world where everyone wants to express themselves, and it adds to, our world is richer, and we have more information and we have better information. We have, we detect scandals. We talk about scandals like, the recent ones. We have WikiLeaks and stuff like that. And I think we're better off in that world than we used to be. And that's because we trust that everyone can be an expert at something. That's a bet on human nature. That's a big bet. But, and it's not to say that everyone's an expert at everything. Again, I take my example on freeride skiing. I'm an okay skier, but I can judge whether a video of freeride is good to be published or not. And that's because I'm passionate about it. And similarly, I'm passionate about the iPad and stuff like that. And so I can curate about that.
So the expertise is linked directly to the passion?
I think they're correlated. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you can be an expert at something because it's your job. And you do a better job if you're passionate about it, but you don't necessarily have to be.
I'll take the second part too. So all of our curators are either founders, hackers, or investors themselves. We take that very seriously. Like the payment, I'll give you like a real example. So the Start Badges Payments Edition is done by Dan Rose. It's done by, I can't think of his name. Dan Rose and the guy who funded WePay, their investor, and then also I forgot his name, sorry. One of the co-founders of WePay himself. So they're doing a new payments platform. So they're part of the industry, they know what's going on. Rich Albertman, that's him. They're actually in that industry. So they're the best ones to curate that topic because they're building a company in that industry.
All right, all the way in the back.
Jeff Scott with Active.com. I guess the question is whether or not there are certain types of content that are better served by tapping into things like your social interest to curate a personalized list of content as opposed to the human curation.
So let's summarize the question again. What do you want us to ask?
I guess we can talk kind of about the future, whether or not you see the human curation tapping into things like Facebook likes or your other places you've expressed interest on the web to help better personalize content for people as opposed to just saying, I'm an expert in X, here's what's good, but then further filtering it down and say, I know this about you, and so you're especially going to like this. So really getting more personal as opposed to just curating.
Yeah, kind of hard question to answer. So yeah, I guess there's like personalization and curation that already like Google personalizes your search results based on like what you click on and what you search and what you behave and what's in your email, and it gets a little scary. But and Facebook also, like, just because you're Facebook friends with somebody does not mean they show up in your newsfeed. They are personally tailoring that to you. So and yeah, for search results or something where there's like large amounts of data, like it might be more like interesting to like data mine stuff and put stuff to you. Also, there's this whole thing versus like implied versus expressed interest. Sometimes you say you like one thing, but really you're clicking on another thing. For things like that, it's very hard to tell. For things like more media-centric, it's probably better to have like experts or topics or something around that. Kind of a broad question,
but I think with your question is actually touching on curation and filtering. There's the act of curation, which is one of your friends started saying, hey, this song is great, or this playlist is great. And then there's the filtering, which in Facebook happens by the choice you made of who you're friend with. And so, the act of curation happened, and then you received it not just because it was curated by someone, but because there was a filter that was applied and that made you receive it. And so I think we can rephrase your question on whether the filters which are going to be efficient, are they going to be coming from Facebook or Twitter or other platforms, or is there an opportunity to build additional filters which are going to be interesting?